Hello, this is Ron Waters. I am hosting the show of Veterans Voice, and we have a special guest with us today, Sandy Hart from the Kentucky Veterans and Patriot Museum in Wickliffe. We'll be right back, and we're going to give her a chance to tell us what she's been up to. Well, today we have a guest with us. Her name is Sandy Hart. I'm sure that a lot of you veterans in this area know her very well. She has organized, her and her husband and some other veterans together have organized the Kentucky Veterans and Patriot Museum in Wickliffe, Kentucky. And it's located at 636 Phillips. That's on Highway 286. Is that correct, Sandy?
That's correct.
And would you like to tell us a little bit about what that museum is about?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I'm very grateful for where I'm sitting today because this was one of the places that it all started a long time ago, 13 years ago. We went on a trip, but it started with a trip before the museum ever existed. I was asked to do a newspaper story on a veteran because they'd forgotten about Veterans Day, and I was upset about that. How do you forget about Veterans Day?
Yeah.
So I said, I was told never to ask a veteran a question, leave him alone. And he says, oh, all you have to do is go up and grab a vet and throw some questions at him and throw something together.
Yeah.
I said, get somebody they deserve.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. So he said, if you don't do it, there won't be an article. So I went to our local mayor and I said, could you get a room full of veterans? Maybe they'll just talk in front of me.
The
I don't know
Paducah
what
mayor?
to ask them. I'm sorry, the mayor of Wickliffe, Kentucky.
Oh, Mayor Wickliffe? Okay.
Silmayola. And so that was on a Friday. By Monday, he had a room full.
Oh.
And 3 of them had been in during Korea, and the rest were World War II veterans. The majority of them had never opened up.
Really?
So they got with each other, and they opened up with each other and said things that they'd never said to their spouses, to their children, or anything. It was just amazing. They cried, and I cried with them. I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
I turned around, and after we had everything for that newspaper, I wanted something. By the way, I didn't work for a newspaper. I just did articles. And so I turned around and asked the school if I could do something for the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And I finally got it and went in there with these guys, and they blew me away again. The first meeting, the most specific thing that was said, one of them said, I opened up when my son came home from Vietnam. I opened up so he could open up. I said the dumbest thing. You mean you really cared? Now, I didn't mean that to insult him.
Yeah.
I think I was asking it for our Vietnam veterans because they had spent so many years thinking nobody cared.
Yeah.
So he said, care. Sandy, how could we not care? We fought a war so big we thought there would never be another one in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And then our kid brothers and our younger cousins had to go to Korea.
Yeah.
Our sons and our nephews had to go to Vietnam. And now our grandchildren over in this mess.
Yeah.
How could we not care?
Yeah.
After that, and after the second meeting, I did 4.5 pages on the second one.
Wow.
I started going to the homes of ones on their deathbed because I had to get the story. I had to get the story. The one thing that all of them kept saying, we're never going to live to see our memorial finally finished.
Oh,
and all I could think about was shame on us.
The World War II memorial you're talking about?
I mean, they were our dads and grandpas, and they had done so much and worked every day that there was work. And didn't complain, so we didn't get their memorial done. Shame on us.
Yeah.
So it became something strong in my mind to feel guilty about, to feel really bad about, but I didn't know what to do with it until 3 of those guys that had given me their stories on their deathbed died in the same week.
Wow.
Well, actually 8 days' time.
Yeah.
All of them were laid out in the same funeral parlor and all buried in the same cemetery.
That's amazing.
So the night that the last one was laid out, the phone rang and I almost didn't answer it. I was almost out the door, and I went back. And it was Washington, D.C. Somebody calling from Washington, D.C. You see, people in that county had bought out that paper and sent it to VFWs, American Legions around the country, to relatives, and to D.C. So the guy says, how did you get away with this, even in small-town America? Well, that's easy. We happen to live in the most patriotic area of the United States.
Yeah.
So he said, could I talk you into coming out the spring of 2004? By this time, it was December of 2002. I said, you're going to have to come up with something really big because I have 25 grands. And if I get away, it's to go see them.
Yeah.
He said, we're finishing their memorial.
Finishing the World War II memorial.
They were finishing that. And
what year was that?
Well, I was talking to him December of 2002. He said it would be done spring of 2004.
So it was finished then?
It was going to be finished. So I went to the funeral parlor that night, and I was talking to some people from the county, and I said, wow, you know what? I got the craziest phone call today. And I told them about it. And before they could say too much, in walks one of our veterans, Jess Hargrove. And this was his cousin laying there. They had both served in pretty rough places. So what happened was, before it was long, I said it to him. I got this invitation. He said, let's go. I said, what, are we supposed to thumb our way out there? And he says, yeah, let's do it. And you knew he meant it.
Yeah.
He really wanted to go. So this was like a scene from a movie. This semi-circle of people from all over the county formed around us and said, we just had an impromptu meeting over there, and we want to help raise the money to send you out there to do the story, Sandy.
Wow.
I have definite problems with that. I didn't sign up to defend you. I didn't risk my life for you. I wasn't even born until it was all over.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, if you help me raise the money for some of them to go, then I'll go. I'll do the story.
Oh.
They said yes. The first thing I did was turn it all over to God. People always wondered when this thing turned out a success, was I ever afraid that the money wasn't going to be there? No, because I told God I'd be out and do whatever I needed.
Yeah.
But I would not worry about the money. And I never did. No one ever heard me say
You told me earlier there was like 17
buses
and,
wound up going.
17 buses.
We raised, without counting how many, my first fear was, why should they trust me? Who the heck am I?
Yeah.
That they should trust me to take
So
them
they
out
all got
there.
to go to Washington, D.C. free.
You better believe it. They went absolutely free for 6 days. We raised over $225,000
Wow,
with the
that's
donated
amazing.
items and the discounts. It was worth over $400,000, 6 days of their motels being paid for, their buses being paid for, their food, and any place that would dare charge them to walk through the door. So
did you find a lot of charitable people along the way, like the motels and stuff, that would give them discounts?
Discounts and stuff, but I will tell you this much. Even though we wound up taking not only veterans from here, other places all over Kentucky.
Yeah.
We heard from people from Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, and Tennessee asking if they could go.
Now, all these guys on these 17 buses, surely they weren't all from around here, were they?
No, that's what I mean. They were from all over. We let them go.
Yeah.
We let them go, but I need to tell you that over 85% of the money for that trip for all of them was raised.
So
right
where
here in
did the
West
trip
Kentucky.
start?
5 buses left from Paducah.
5.
2 from Benton area.
Benton.
1 from Princeton area. 4 from Louisville, and 5 from up in northern Kentucky.
Wow.
And we all met in Lexington and headed on out.
That's
and
amazing.
It was just amazing. But the biggest thing was, told their stories all the way. Ones who had never opened up with each other. That's what they needed, was the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And to be there at Arlington
Yeah.
was as much of an impact, I think, as the,
Yeah.
as the in the memorial. It was just, I can't even describe what
it's
it
a
was
very
like.
moving place. I've been there.
It rained from the time we left home until the
Yeah.
memorial. And afterward, I realized maybe God meant for it to rain in Arlington
Yeah.
because they cried. And it was just unbelievable what they shared.
Yeah.
Before we even got on the trip, though, I said, I'm going to get you a museum.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I'm going to get you a museum. I don't know
Uh-huh.
exactly how we're going to do it,
Yeah.
but not just for you, for all of them, for all the generations.
Yeah.
If somebody asks the most successful thing about the museum, about the trip on down to the museum,
Mm-hmm.
are all these different generations knowing that they kind of went through the same thing.
Yeah.
And that they experienced it at different times, but they could share it with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And more fathers and sons and even grandpas and grandsons have opened
Now,
up.
were these all World War II?
Well, then
people?
it was, except for the bus captains were Korean War vets, Vietnam vets, and widows.
I see.
You see, I'd sit out in front of stores, in front of Walmart or something, and
Yeah.
a guy would go peace out.
You know, I think that's where I first met you, out in front of Walmart here, across from the mall.
Well, I didn't expect.
And I started walking in. I think you said, "Are you a veteran?" I think I had a hat on. I'm not sure what.
If there's some sign of you,
and you hugged me,
and I hugged you.
And I thought, what a lady.
Well, Korean War vets would walk by. They wouldn't say what they were. They would say, "Nobody remembers us. We're forgotten. Why should I help?" And I always kept an extra seat by me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Give me 3 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
3 minutes.
I think you gave me a pin that day.
Well, the Vietnam veterans, they would say,
"Yeah,
everybody thinks we're losers," and I said, "Give me 3 minutes." And that's all it took, and they became our staunchest supporters. They really did, and they still are to this day. And I'll always be grateful that they shared their stories with me. The kids walking up with pennies and nickels and dimes, and they'll always know that they helped get them out there.
Yeah, they wanted to help.
The same things happened with the museum.
Yeah.
We did other trips. I told you we went to the D-Day tour overseas. We went to Hawaii with them.
In Hawaii, yeah.
All I can say is there is nothing like.
Now those trips
you
were telling me earlier were half price.
They were half price. The first thing was free. I couldn't set out forever and collect.
Yeah.
So my husband would arrange through his business, and then we wouldn't put anything on. So all the rest of the trips out to Washington, or the ones overseas or in Hawaii, were all.
Well, I spent 30 minutes in Hawaii, just long enough for the plane to refuel on my way over across the big pond, they called it.
To stand over the Arizona, and to know that men who served on the Arizona are now having their remains cremated and having divers taking them down and putting them back on that ship.
Yeah, they want to be with their friends, their buddies, their fellow veterans.
My dad served, my uncle served. There wasn't a branch that wasn't covered by my family, but I didn't know anything because I was told, don't ask. Right. My husband, when I met that Marine, we knew each other for 6 weeks and a day before we got married, and we just celebrated our 52nd wedding anniversary.
Wow, that's great.
The only thing I knew that came out somewhat was his uncle, because his uncle was on the USS Scamp, one of 53 subs that sunk during World War II. He's at the bottom of the Pacific with all those guys. I don't think he'd ever want to be brought up and back home. I think he's where he wants to be. Yeah. But it does hurt the family when they don't come back home. I encourage, as you know, hugs and thank yous to all of our veterans. I'm well known for it. Yeah. But we can't ever thank those ones that didn't make it back home.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, we've got the number one story that we tell out there is Dan Price. People have actually come from overseas and know this story.
Oh.
Dan came up, he wrote me a letter first, and he said...
Did you bring his picture with you today?
Yes, I did. His story was so amazing because he didn't think it was that important. He said, do you think this is good enough to go in a paper?
Yeah.
Could you help me
Yeah.
get this in? And I said, I called him. He wrote all this to me, and he wrote this story. And I said, Dan Price, this is one of the most amazing stories I ever heard in my life. I mean, he was up in the air, flying a plane, thought he was the John Wayne type, until shrapnel started coming through the front. Then he was no longer guts and glory.
Changes the story a little.
It does, but he would, as all the rest of him, he would never let us call him a hero.
Right.
37 times the man was shot at for our freedom.
Yeah.
Before I was even born. 37 times. The person he thought was special was one of those times they shot up his whole wing.
Yeah.
Okay? There's just no way that he was going to make it down. Mayday, mayday on that horn. He says he knew it was just seconds, but it seemed like an eternity.
Yeah.
He went to call again, and before he could press the button, he heard, "We sees you, white boy." And it was the Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh, really?
A lot of us didn't even know what Tuskegee Airmen were until the movie came out a while back.
Yeah, yeah.
But once Dan told me his story, all these other white pilots started coming up and telling me their story.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what happened. The enemy's still after him, you know. The wing shot up. He shows up next to him and with a big grin on his face, hooked the wing under his wing.
Wow.
And got him away from the enemy and a perfect landing down.
That is amazing.
How do you ever forget somebody like that?
No.
He looks over, the guy still grinning. He said, I was raised with all the prejudice of West Kentucky, and it disappeared at that moment. He said, I could have kissed that black face. He turns around, and he spends over 60 years.
Yeah.
Because as that man took off, he sees "Cool Fool" written on the side of the plane.
Cool
Who
fool.
the heck was the cool fool?
We don't know.
It drove him crazy. It took me 2.5 years to find out.
Really?
And I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story. You got to come to the museum to hear it.
Okay. Those stories are in the museum.
They are. We have the
what else do you
found
have?
out who it was, and I will tell you his name was George Haley.
George Haley.
And he was an amazing human being. We turned around, and we've got a man in there. All these are past now, so it's kind of hard to get through the stories. Yeah. We had the privilege of taking a man from the Bataan Death March. I didn't know what that was. I just knew it was bad.
That was in the Philippines, wasn't it?
Yes. They turned around.
After MacArthur left them.
They were prisoners of war for 40 months. Our involvement was 43 months, and they were prisoner of war for 40 months, tortured and starved. And then they were taken on that horrible death march, the ones that were left of them.
Yeah, the ones that were left.
This man never told me this. I had to do research. After the trip, he turned 90.
Wow.
And they were throwing him a birthday party. And he had never opened up. I'd said, do you want to tell me about it? And he says, the only thing I'll tell you is you'll never see a Japanese vehicle in my driveway.
Really?
So that's all he would say about it.
Yeah.
His daughter said, Daddy, just think, 10 more years, and you can have your face on the jelly jar on NBC. She said as soon as the words were out of her mouth, she knew she made a mistake by the look on his face.
Oh.
There was that blank out, that staring ahead, not talking right away.
Yeah.
When he did, he said, when I finally got out of the last of those hospitals.
Oh, he was talking about, what's the fellow used to talk about the 100-year-old birthdays?
Yeah, he says, when I finally got out of the last of those hospitals, they told me to add at least 10 years to my age. Yes.
Yeah.
And so he says, I guess I'm already 100.
Yeah.
So she said, oh, Daddy, I'm so sorry. Anything we can get you for your birthday. He said, I forbid you to buy me anything. All I want is to see if 90 people can send me a card saying they remember and they appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what happened was she called me, and I called all the media.
Yeah.
He was across from Illinois, actually.
Yeah.
And I said, I want him to get at least 900.
Oh.
I showed up for his birthday. Place was packed. The girls felt like they'd made a mistake. What? He's beautiful. What are you talking about? They said somebody asked if they could have the phone number.
Yeah.
And we thought, wouldn't that be nice if Daddy gets 1 or 2 phone calls? They said there had to be more phone calls than there were cards and letters.
Yeah.
Because they were calling right after one another.
I see.
There was no end from morning to night. They were having to tell people that Daddy had to get some sleep. Okay? The thing is, these people called, and these cards came in because we do remember. We may not know exactly what they did for us, but we knew it was big.
Yeah.
We knew it was enormous, and we had to remember it. So that's why the museum exists.
Yeah.
Because any veteran ever wants is for somebody to remember what they did and appreciate
Remember what they did. Yeah.
We had Morris Crane. Do you know who Morris Crane was?
The name's familiar. What?
Morris Crane's, when you cross a certain bridge, you'll see Morris Crane's name. If you go out to the Ballard Memorial High School, you'll see a big stone with World War I, World War II, and Korean veterans on it, and a little Vietnam stone off to the side next to it. But there's an image cut into it, and it's Morris Crane. Everybody in West Kentucky should know what that man did. You see, he was a technical sergeant, and he was in a building over there with 5 guys under him, and the Nazis were closing in. And he turned around and told them to get out the back door while they had time, and he would follow them. He'd hold them off. And he got 3 more Nazis before they got him. Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Medal of Honor. We should never forget somebody like him. So we recently, by recently I mean in the last 3 years ago, we received a veteran home by the name of, he never came home to be a veteran, I guess you would say a soldier, who died at the Battle of Chosin. And
Chosin Reservoir there.
Yes,
in
and
North
they
Korea.
dug massive holes.
Yeah.
And took their dog tags off.
Yeah.
And mixed them up and threw them in different mass graves. And the Koreans finally dug them up 23 years or so ago. And it's like a bad movie. They sent them over here in crates. And they were stored and warehoused basically in Hawaii. And nobody could find the x-rays. You know those x-rays, they take the full x-rays, they don't tell you this is in case we have to identify you later. And they couldn't find him. It took 20 years for this office to call this office and say, we're trying to clear out the office here. Can we throw some stuff away, like we have all these x-rays from these Korean soldiers? And we trash them, and they said, we need them ASAP. We've been looking for him for years. He was brought home, and his funeral was at that school. The high school, the middle school, the relatives, and the neighbors all there. And
that's your main goal, it seems like, to preserve the memories.
Preserve the memories,
of
that's
these
right.
veterans that
his daughter was there and had not seen him since she was 2.5 years old. And then we have the big one, Carneal. William Petum Carneal.
Yeah.
The only reason that I figured out that story was we'd taken G.C. Carneal on that trip. And when we got out there, he said, I have a relative that was never found, a cousin. And he died 2 years before he was brought home.
Yeah.
And from Saipan, and it was just amazing. The biggest funeral ever, I predicted it. And Paducah was just unbelievable. People closed their shops even and came and stood on the street. School children waving flags and singing God Bless America as they went by. This is what our area is.
Yeah.
It was not hard for me to get people stirred up. One of the most foremost people that put it in my heart that I could do this was Larry McCullough.
Larry
McCullough was an amazing human being. And Larry told me, you can do this, kid. He said, just stick with the KISS program. Well, I thought he meant be friendly.
Yeah.
I thought he meant keep hugging and thanking veterans.
Yeah.
It was a year and a half later, right before the trip, that I found out the KISS program is keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's right. So, what do you need help with the most about the museum and the work that you do?
Well, other than money, we don't charge people to come in, and
Yeah.
we never will. And none of us make anything. We all do it
I
voluntarily.
have to
what's done.
confess, I haven't visited the museum yet,
Well, we're going to get you out there.
but I'm gonna make sure I get there.
But the thing is, we do accept donations.
Uh-huh.
That's all we do. We do accept
Yeah.
donations, and we do tell our non-veterans we'd like most of it come from them.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though veterans have given.
Well, I think it's basically getting the awareness out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that many people probably don't have an idea that we have a museum this close. You know,
We've had plenty publicity. Oh, you never can have too much, though. I will say, when I first started coming on shows like this and different things with me, I kept saying, it's not about me, it's about the veterans. Interview them. Ask them why they want to go. And people kept saying they want to know what makes you tick. So I did an article one time on what makes me tick, tick, tick.
Now, give me something.
The thing is, it does help to have my face out there, I found out, because when somebody goes to pass me, they'll say, they've even walked past me and stepped back and said, wait a minute, I know who you are.
Yeah.
I can trust you.
Yeah.
You're not a fraud. And they'll go ahead and give to the museum.
Yeah.
So they can, anybody that wants to.
So where do they send their
can
donations?
send some money to P.O. Box 633, Wickliffe, Kentucky. Now,
We'll
they
try
don't
to
have
have that on the screen.
they
Say
can
that
put-
again. Post office box
Start with KVPM. That's the letters for it. KVPM. P.O. Box 633, Wickliffe, Kentucky.
Wickliffe, Kentucky. Okay.
42087.
42087.
And if they need anything, they can just call.
Now, is there a phone number that they
Yes,
can also call?
270
270
210
210
2452.
2452.
But I need their stories. When you come out there, you're going to think I'm crazy to say that, because you walk in and the first word is, wow.
Yeah.
Because the walls are covered. But there's never enough stories. And people will think they can't send them from other states. They can. It's just called Kentucky because it's in Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, we're running out of time, Sandy. This has been a very interesting interview, and we sure hope that you continue the work there. And I'm sure the people have got the phone number now and the address, and that didn't know about this. And I would encourage them to keep supporting a work like this. Very important that we help Sandy and the veterans.
Not my museum, it's you guys'
It's
museum.
not yours. It's everybody's. Yeah, that's well. Thank you for coming on the show today, Sandy.
Thank you.
That'll about wrap it up for us today, and we're glad that you could tune in.